Hi everyone, my name is Shimri Winters, and today, welcome to part 2 of the London Business School versus INSEAD MBA. And today we're going to talk about the admissions process. So first I'll just present myself. My name is Shimri Winters. I head the strategy team at ARINGO MBA Admissions Consulting. I'm a London Business School alumnus. I was also part of the interviewing committee for London Business School, and I interviewed tens of MBA candidates to London Business School. Who's ARINGO? We're very good. We're a boutique admissions consulting firm. We help candidates get into top MBA schools, from chances estimation, project management, school selection, obviously working with them on the application, interview prep, and much more, scholarships. Check us out on aringo.com. This was my only marketing slide for today. So from now on, we're going to talk about London Business School and INSEAD. Okay, so for those who didn't watch the part 1, London Business School versus INSEAD, please, you can see in the description of this video, part 1, that will give you a sense of who are these schools, what are they offering, some statistics about where do alumni go and work, salaries, curriculum, learning experience, and more and more and more, and a bit about the admissions process, but we kind of just touched it in version 1. Today, we'll talk about the actual admissions process, and we'll look at London Business School. So this is for advanced users, advanced candidates who are seriously thinking of applying to London Business School and INSEAD. Today, I'm going to give you real tips and real information about the application, how to have the best resume, how to have very good essays, recommendation letters. We'll discuss all of that. Unfortunately, mainly because INSEAD is so long, we'll discuss that as well. I just couldn't get all this material into a second presentation, which is why we're going to have a part 3 presentation, hopefully next week, for those who are watching live, which will discuss the interview process at both these schools, both the video interview that both these schools have introduced a few years ago, and the face-to-face interview, both at LBS and INSEAD. And I'll generally talk in that presentation about how to ace generally an MBA interview, specifically for London Business School and INSEAD, and what to focus on, how to prepare, etc. So stay tuned for the part 3 video presentation about London Business School versus INSEAD. So now we're going to talk about London Business School versus INSEAD admissions process. So step 1, let's talk about London Business School. London Business School is a fantastic school. In whatever rankings you look, whoever you ask, it's one of the best schools in the world. By the way, I'm not sure it really matters. Is it ranked number 6? Is it ranked number 8? Is it ranked number 10? Is a certain school ranked above it or not? It's definitely one of the best business schools in the world. I don't think there's a lot of doubt about that. Over 40,000 alumni worldwide. It's very, very diverse. One of the key things the London Business School is proud of is the number of countries that these alumni come from. I didn't even know there were 155 countries, so there you go. There's a lot of electives to choose from. And what's really interesting at London Business School, it's one of the only schools that you can actually customize the length of the program. You can do it short, in 15 months. You can have a summer internship and take the second year longer and do it in 18 months or 21 months. So you actually have a choice of customizing the program length. Of course, the curriculum, because you can choose from a lot of electives. And the main campus is in London. I think that makes sense. Again, for more information about London Business School, watch the first video where I dig in for half an hour about London Business School. But now we're going to talk about the admissions process at London Business School. So if you've heard of London Business School and you want to apply to London Business School, make sure that you have these prerequisites. And thank you for whoever's joining on the chat. I can see you guys, and we already have a couple of people interested in INSEAD. I hope we have a couple of people interested at London Business School as well. So you do need these criterias these prerequisites to be an MBA candidate for London Business School. So first of all, MBAs are master degrees, and they are a second degree. And in most business schools, you need to have an undergraduate degree to have the prerequisite to register even for a master's degree. Luckily, London Business School and also INSEAD, this is not mandatory. And if you have a very special and unique business profile, but you don't have an undergraduate degree, you still have a chance and you can still apply to London Business School and to INSEAD. I work with about 2 people every year that don't have an undergraduate degree. But again, these are unique people that either have their own business or just progressed professionally very quickly and never completed or never started their undergraduate degree. And we've had good success in both these schools. You do need work experience for an MBA program. Again, check out the previous video where I discuss Master in Management versus MBA versus Executive MBA, but you need a minimum of 2 years of work experience to even qualify for the prerequisites of London Business School. Same with INSEAD. It's probably advisable to have at least 3 years of work experience. It can be any work experience. It can be consulting, accounting, legal services, entrepreneurship, marketing. It can be anything. It does need to have some kind of business sense. So if you've been, I don't want to badmouth any other industry, but if it's like a student job, okay, and you can think what a student job is, and you've kind of kept that job also after university, that's probably less good. Okay, so it needs to be some kind of business job that has some kind of prospects. These 2 schools require a GMAT, like most schools, although there are some schools in 2024, mainly in the US, that have GMAT waivers. And we'll talk about the GMAT as well. And if you didn't study your undergraduate degree in English, you will need a language proficiency test like the TOEFL or IELTS, and the new Duolingo test, which is quite friendly. So that's a prerequisite. It's not very special, probably very similar to most other business schools. Once you have the prerequisites, then we can look at the actual online application at London Business School. And the application is quite similar to other schools. You need a 1-page CV. I think London Business School are one of the only schools, actually probably not the only, but one of the schools that mention it time and time again, 1-page CV. I have to admit, this year I saw for the first time probably a 2-page CV that didn't work with me, but asked for some interview prep help. And as you understood, got an interview. So she did send a 2-page CV and got an interview. And actually, she got an offer last week. But again, this was kind of unique. They really want a 1-page CV. Even if you have a lot to say, try and get it all in 1 page. London Business School introduced a new essay this year. We'll talk about it, essay number 2. So there's actually 2 essays after having at least 8 to 10 years, I can't remember, of having 1 essay. Those have an optional essay, which is a great place to use, and we'll talk about that. They only need 1 reference, and there's 1 letter of recommendation that needs to be sent. You need to pay a fee. There's an online application. It's very, very long at London Business School. We'll talk about it. And you need your transcripts from your undergraduate degree. I forgot to mention that. And that's it. Then if you have all this, you can apply. You have your GMAT, you have your undergraduate, you have all this application, and you can apply. So that was the what do you need to do. And now, oh, I love it. I can also see the questions, so I'll talk about it. And correct, London Business School does have the Sloan Fellows and the Executive MBA. In this presentation, I mainly talk about the full-time MBA admissions. Talk to me separately. You should see my email and website at the end of this presentation. And if you want more information about the Sloan Fellows or Executive MBA or Executive Education or whatever in these schools. But right now, we're going to mainly talk about the full-time MBA. So what does the MBA application process look like at London Business School? The first thing you do is you need to submit your application. So we said you need the CV and the essays and the recommendation to be submitted and the online application and all that, which we'll get into in this presentation. And then at London Business School, you basically wait. So you wait something like 5-6 weeks, depends exactly when you're applying. and then you'll get either an interview notification or not. If you do get an interview notification, if you've been selected for an interview, you will also have to complete a video interview. I'll discuss this in presentation number 3. But as far as I remember, London Business School have 2 questions. They're like 1 minute each. So this video interview is very short. Don't overthink it. It's quite simple. What isn't simple is the next stage is you actually have an interview, usually with an alumni, with one alumnus. But sometimes it can also be with admissions. And then 5 weeks later, you'll get the final decision, rejected or waitlisted, or maybe even you will get an offer. We just got the answers, I think last week from round 1. So end of November for submissions, which were mid-September. So it takes about 2.5 months to get the final decision, about 10 weeks. Okay, let's dig into the actual application. Just one more statistics. Again, you'll have all this on the first presentation, but here are the rounds for 2024. Today is December 24, so you have 1 month for round 2 if you're still interested in applying this year. I will say that round 3 at London Business School is possible. There's a lot of US schools where I kind of tell people stay away from round 3. And we've had a lot of success in round 3. Still, as a high-level rule of thumb, try and avoid the last round. So unless you absolutely have to, try and apply in round 1 or 2, generally speaking. But again, it's not a complete no-no if you just didn't make it on time, if you need more time for your GMAT, you need more time for your application. Don't be discouraged. Apply in the last round. Even if you have 50% less chance, it's still a viable chance, hopefully. And it's still doable. And here you have the dates and, as we said, around 10 weeks between the application and the final answer. And that's it. Let's talk about the application. So in my previous presentation, the first thing we'll talk about is the resume and the CV. In my previous presentation, I discussed the formatting of a resume. And as you can see, we did a little spot the differences. I ruined the surprise. I enjoyed it a lot. A little Where Waldo exercise. It was nice. And you guys spotted a lot of issues in my formatting. So first of all, when we look at the resume, don't forget that it needs to look very good. Okay. When we look at the requirements at London Business School, they only give 2 requirements. Give me a 1-page CV. That's one requirement. They are saying if you have any significant gaps, you can use another page to explain this. That's interesting. I'm not sure I ever used another page in the actual CV, but that's interesting. We could use kind of an empty page in the CV, and when we upload the CV, it would be one upload with kind of an explanation of gaps. Again, the gaps need to be well explained. It was COVID, and my village didn't have any internet, or I gave birth, and I took a year off, or I took a year off to study. Those are all good explanations. Generally speaking, schools don't love gaps in CVs, so it's not something that I try and emphasize too much. Okay, so what does a good CV look like? Okay, so if we look at an excellent, stellar LBS CV, and I think I've seen a few, I think the header here is actually the right thing. It's like, if you feel you're special, don't talk, prove it. Don't talk, shoot. Show me that you're special. Explain to me that you're special. So let's say you work in a tier 1 company. It's not enough to just, or if you don't work in a tier 1 company, explain to me, where do you work? Is this a special place? Maybe it's a startup that no one's heard of, but actually you've had a round 3 funding within 12 months of $10 million. Maybe it's a company no one heard of, but actually it's because it's a B2B company, and all the banks in Western Europe have worked with your company, but I haven't heard of them. Maybe it's a small niche company, but you are one of the founders. Maybe it's a huge company, Coca-Cola. Okay, so maybe just give me a good company description, and then move into the responsibilities. And I'll give you some examples. But when I look at a bad CV, I usually see a description of what the person does, of the responsibilities, but I don't see highlighted achievements, and I don't see quantifiable results. I just see, work in Deloitte accounting, and I've worked with 5 clients, and the report comes out every quarter. Okay, that's quite boring. But maybe you can say work for Deloitte Consulting, one of the big 4 financial services companies in the world. I lead the team of 3, and my responsibility is to work with our top 10% clients on, being compliant with the NASDAQ rules. Okay, like you can make it more impressive. So don't, obviously, you are you, but you can look for good company descriptions, and you can also look for your impressive responsibilities and your impressive quantifiable results, maybe, that you can highlight in the CV. For those who are thinking ahead a second and thinking about the essays where you're going to be asked about your career goals, the CV might want to kind of be connected somehow to your career goals. And I'll touch this later, but again, if you're an accountant at Deloitte and your career goal is to be an astronaut at NASA, like, that's a problem. Okay? But if you're an accountant in Deloitte, they also founded the Space Club. I don't think there is such a thing at Deloitte. And you work with 4 space companies. Again, not sure there are that many. I'm losing the plot here. But again, and you're showing some kind of connection to the space industry. And then you want to say, and my goal is to be a finance manager in the space industry. That already starting to make sense. Okay, so try and kind of connect it to your goal. And like I said here, then just avoid stating like the position. Try and explain the accomplishment. By the way, I can see all your questions. Keep asking the questions. Thanks for this live chat. It's great. And we're going to get to your questions at the end of this presentation, which is a bit long, but hang in there. So that was a bit the LBS CV. Let me give you some examples. This is a guy, mechanism. And mechanism is an engineer, like a lot of other MBA candidates. He's actually a very good engineer. Okay, he's super smart, this engineer. And he's good at C++ and Python. And he's good at backend systems, whatever that means. And I used to be an engineer, and I'm sure my work CV said, good at C++. I mean, that's what I used to do. But obviously, that's not what an MBA CV should look like. And also here, you can see the bullets, contributed to the design of search algorithm. Great for him. And he developed some kind of machine learning model. Sounds good. It's all very technical. It's just not very relevant for MBAs. When we look for MBAs, we want to see the achievements. We want to see what this person has achieved and why are they actually better than maybe their peers or something like that. So let's look at kind of, I formatted a bit and I worked a bit on mechanisms, professional experience, first bullet. And can you see I described Microsoft? Now I know everybody knows who Microsoft is, but not everybody knows who, I don't know, Adobe is, or Qualcomm or Broadcom, which are huge companies, maybe as big as Microsoft, not as big, but nearly. And they're more B2B companies, so maybe they don't know who they are. Or, okay, so if you work for a brand that not 100% of the people know, I would still do a company description, even if it's a huge brand like Microsoft, tech giant. I put the NASDAQ listing letters here. I put some numbers. I put, 3 trillion market cap. I could have said something else. Global leader in cloud, whatever. Okay, so I kind of showed the company and who the company is. Then, in the bullets, you remember the previous bullets were, very good at C++, contributed to the design and machine learning model. So I took the same ones, and this is the same person. I'm not going to lie about something that they didn't do. I'm not going to say they were the CEO of Microsoft. They were an engineer. But actually, Mechanism forgot to tell us that he got a little promotion in 2018. In 2020. And the reason he forgot to say it, because he's actually doing the same thing, but his title change is getting a bit more money. But I really like that. So first of all, as you can see, I split this up to junior engineer and senior engineer. Again, only if it's true, obviously. But this is something that in the work CV Mechanism didn't think about it, this guy. And now if you look at the bullets, The first bullet is team leadership. Okay, now this engineer doesn't lead the team very frequently, but on this specific project, he led a 2-person team on a cross-company project, and I decided to start with that bullet. So first of all, he has some team leadership experience. As you can see, the other one was the second bullet is also kind of leading a cross-department collaboration. I use the word spearheaded because he kind of led it. He wasn't the direct manager of anyone, but he led this initiative, so that's good. And the third bullet, I put some kind of initiation that he did, and it reduced the server cost, and there's some money here, and there's a percent. But the main word here would be like initiated, like I did something, and then I implemented the whatever this project was. And as a junior engineer, I also used that, although I didn't lead any, this candidate didn't lead anyone. I used it to mention that he has some international experience, or at least, even if it's not international, working with diverse teams from Germany, India, and Canada. So I use this bullet. Again, it doesn't say what he did. It doesn't say C++. It doesn't say machine learning. It doesn't say SQL. But it does say that he has experience working with diverse teams. Okay, so that's kind of a better resume for MBAs. Keep asking questions on the chat. I promise to answer all of them. But that was kind of a resume example. Let me just give you one more example while I sip my water, and you can read through our lawyer. So Will Sue You More is a great lawyer. He works for Kurland and Ellis in the US. It's a law firm. Maybe you've heard of them. And, he's a lawyer. So I think it makes total sense that he drafts and reviews contracts. I mean, I think that's what lawyers do. And he analyzes compliancy stuff, and he specializes in corporate law. I mean, that's great. And, he does NDAs and agreements and stuff. So first of all, if I ever need a lawyer, Will Sue More sounds like one of the best competent lawyers in the business. Like, I think he's excellent. But this is definitely not an MBA London Business School resume. And by the way, these tips are, of course, relevant for INSEAD as well. So take notes for both schools. Here is the resume that I helped him do. Completely fake, by the way, so I didn't help anyone do anything. First of all, very similar to the engineer, he actually had a promotion in 2020 from associate to senior associate. Now, the reason is in a law firm, there's usually partners, and then there's like associates, and then maybe interns. But a lot of times I have very experienced lawyers that don't really manage people. And they say, yeah, I got, from associate to senior associate, I got a promotion, but it didn't really mean much. It means a lot, okay? It means that you got the promotion and other people didn't. So if you did get a promotion, even if it's a title change, I would definitely show it. So maybe you've heard of Kirkland, but it's actually the biggest law firm in the US. So not everybody knows this. I don't think a lot of admission people at London Business School or INSEAD would know it. Why would me as a London Business School grad, why would I know a US law firm, even if it's a big one? So it's good that this guy, Will Sue More, mentioned the largest, most prestigious law firm with 7.2 billion in revenue. It's important. Could have even gone more with international clients, specifying in whatever. And then, as you can see, we use the bullets very similar to the engineering bullets. Led a legal team, initiated knowledge sharing program, nothing to do with, NDAs, made legal contracts, not all that. Manage client relationships. I really like that. It shows that he didn't just sit in the desk and write legal contracts. He actually had some client-facing responsibilities. So this would be a much, much better CV for London Business School or INSEAD for that matter. Okay, I'm sipping my water, and you can look at this another second. And now we will discuss the essays. So I'm reminding you the London Business School have 2 essays and 1 optional one. And the first essay is a very, very straightforward essay. I've seen it a lot in a lot of US schools. It might be written differently. The prompt might be different. They might say, what are your career goals? Why MBA? But this is what it says here, right? So it basically says, what are your post-MBA career goals? what's your prior experience? Remember in the CV, we kind of said if you can connect those two together, and why London Business School? I'll even add here why MBA. So let me offer a structure to answer this. I don't think I'm inventing anything, which is, again, focus on the post goals, then kind of talk about your past, explain why you want an MBA, and then specifically why do you want London Business School. Now, no one said this is the right format to answer this. No one said this is the right order. I've seen a lot of people talk about, I really want to go to London Business School, and I'm going to do this and this and this. And then in the end, I'm going to be a product manager. Like, no one said you have to start with your goals. No one said you have to finish with why London Business School. But you have to make sure these things are in the answer. Because again, you were very specifically asked, what are your goals? Why London Business School? What's your past experience? So just make sure you're ticking these three things in the box. I added the fourth one, which is kind of why MBA. And this essay has to be very specific. You can't copy and paste your Harvard essay into here because you have to talk a lot about London Business School, and it has to be related to the school. So that's a tip which is important for all MBA applications. No copy and pasting. Schools really want to see that you've done the research and that you really want to go and study in this school. Also, interviewers want to see that, but that's a discussion for next time. So, you have to make the essay really specific around London Business School. So let me give you an example from the engineer we had before. He's a smart guy, okay? Like magnum cum laude, magnum, whatever you want, top IIT university in India, Dean's List, okay? This guy is smart, has very good grades, okay? And he's going to mention that on his essay, I'm smart, I have great grades, my GPA is 4.0 exclamation mark. I'm an engineer today, I'm very smart, but actually I'm really interested in the hotel industry. So, that's my goal. I kind of want to go post MBA to the hotel industry. Long term, I haven't thought about it too much, but the CEO of Google, that sounds kind of attractive. If not, maybe CEO of Microsoft. Okay, so those are his goals. I think it's good to be ambitious. An MBA will, help me find a job. I know MBAs, help find a job. And London Business School is just a great brand, one of the best schools in the world. So please give me London Business School. So that would be a less good essay, okay? And there's many reasons here why this would be less good. But first of all, I'm a software engineer, I'm smart, I have good grades, all that's on the CV. So if you're just repeating what London Business School already know about yourself, you're just wasting time, you're wasting their time, and you're wasting your space in this CV, in this essay. You only have 500 words. Why would you waste the first paragraph on something that's already written in the CV? I want to shift to the hotel industry. Well, you kind of understand. This guy's an engineer. Okay, if he's passionate about the hotel industry, that's fine. But why hasn't he worked in the hotel industry so far? Now, a lot of MBAs do a career shift. I'm not saying you shouldn't do a career shift, but there should be some kind of relation, and it should be connected somehow. I'm today a software engineer, and I want to open a startup in software. Or today I work in Homeland Security, and I want to work for a big energy company, helping them protect their energy plants. Okay, it has to be connected. Or, well, we'll see in the next, we'll see an example. So I less like that connection with the hotel industry. And I want to be the CEO of Google. I mean, I think that's a nice dream. I think that sounds a bit too much. It's not connected to the short term in any way. I'm not sure if he managed people or not. So not so sure about the long-term goal. But if he's an engineer and his short-term goal would be, I want to be a project manager in a big company, and long-term, I want to head delivery somewhere, something like that. As long as that makes sense, that's fine. So this specifically wasn't so good. And an MBA will help me find my job. Well, that's not a good reason for why MBA. But I'm sure if you would say an MBA would help you with a business foundation and an international network, for example, I think those would have been better reasons. And LBS is a great brand. Well, you're right about that. I'm going to give you 2 points for sucking up to LBS, but I'm going to take off 5 points for not showing me why LBS. I really would like to see, that you've done some research. Maybe you've spoken to some alumni, mentioned their names. Maybe you know some professors, or you've researched them. Maybe you know some course names. And you have a reason of why LBS, what do you want to study at LBS, what do you want to maybe help the community at LBS, etc. So let me give you a better example. Now, this example, you might start crying. I'm warning you in advance. I've made it emotional. Okay, so I've added another step with an emotion statement, which I don't usually do, but in this case, I just was so emotional. This guy loves restaurants. He loves food, okay? And at 18, he became a waiter, and then he gradually built his way up to restaurant manager. Now, I didn't show you the CV, but this guy has 5 jobs in restaurants. As you can see, he didn't repeat the 5 jobs. He just said, I climbed my way up from waiter to restaurant manager. Obviously, I fill in the gaps, yes? This isn't an essay. This is just some bullets that explain. Now he's connecting his career goals. My dream is to open a restaurant chain in London with some kind of twist, whatever, I don't care. Airbnb of restaurants or whatever he wants to say. But to do this dream, which is connected to my past, I need some kind of financial and marketing knowledge or some kind of YMBA. I need something. And there's no better place than London Business School to do this due to ABC. Sorry, I didn't put ABC, but due to Women in Business Club, the Professor Kostas Markides, and the Windsor Castle Pub, where I'm going to speak and drink drinks with my fellow colleagues after university. Okay, so showing that he did research and he kind of knows what he wants to get out of London Business School to a career goal, which is very, actually, yeah, I mean, that makes sense. He was a waiter and then he had 5 jobs and now he's a restaurant manager. And then after the MBA, he wants to open a chain of restaurants. I think that all makes sense. And I can feel it, right? And I couldn't feel that engineer that wanted to work in hotels or something like that. Okay, so that was essay number 1. Let's talk about essay number 2. So this is a new essay at London Business School. I won't give examples from now on because we won't have enough time. I actually really like this essay because it gives me more space. And the problem with London Business School, there was one essay, 500 words. So now I have 200 extra words. And it's what makes you unique. And I actually love this essay because I try and put something that's not on my CV. Or maybe it is, but it's like, a few words on the CV. Maybe I put on the CV, love chess. But actually here I can say, when I was a child, I used to play in competitions. And then I used to fly out to competitions. And I had some international experience playing chess as a child. And then as a grown-up, I went to a school and started volunteering as a chess teacher. And I really felt that even, underprivileged children that didn't have a lot of extracurricular activities, me teaching them chess really helped. And I want to be part of the chess club at London Business School and teach chess to people that don't know chess, whatever. So that's just a hobby. It's just a passion. It shows some, unconventional experience. It, connects to my volunteering and what I want to bring to London Business School, all just by playing chess. Okay, now this could be playing your guitar. This can be some kind of work experience, maybe woman empowerment that you did. It can be some kind of unique experience that you had as a child, as a grown-up. Maybe you visited 50 countries and you want to talk about that. So it's something really nice that we kind of can add to the application. And I would take this kind of to a non-professional way if there's something interesting there, and it kind of will complement your essay number 1, which was very professional. This brings us to essay number 3, which is an optional essay. Okay, now, until today, in essay number 3, which is kind of tell me anything else you want to tell me. What I used to do in the past, I used to write essay number 1 very long. And then when I used to cut essay 1, because I only had 500 words, I used to say, okay, maybe I'll put this in the optional essay. But if you don't have anything interesting, don't waste anyone's time. Don't waste London Business School's time. Don't waste the interviewer's time. Don't waste your time in writing an optional essay. But if you feel it adds value, it can be anything. It can be academic experience, professional experience, personal experience. Okay, and I gave you an example that I agree it can probably go into essay number 2 as a uniqueness, but it can probably go into essay number 3 if you've used essay number 2 for something else. And what I said here was, yeah, I love photography. I love chess. It doesn't matter what you say. It has to be something that you're passionate about. And then at college, I founded a photography club. And it was also a great social club, or, people who had drinks together. And at LBS, I want to kind of do the same and help beginners find the beauty in photography, whatever. I just wrote this very quickly. It's not an essay. So that's an example of something that you can say in essay number 2. You could also say it in essay number 3 if you used essay number 2 for something specific. This does add value because it kind of shows who you are. So I think I would actually use this for essay number 2. I'm sorry about the header. And then if I didn't have something unique for essay number 3, I would leave empty. But if I had this in essay number 2, and then in essay number 3, I wanted to share something about my professional experience, that I had maybe a very unique experience. Part of my professional experience, I lived half a year somewhere and I was doing something else, and I just wanted to explain that. You could explain that in essay number 3 as well. Okay. The recommendations are, at London Business School, there's one recommendation. This is a slide from the previous presentation, so I urge you to see it for the 4th time, where I asked the chat, and I had very good answers. Who is the best recommender? Should it be my mom? Should it be a school teacher, university professor? Should it be my boss? Should it be the CEO? Or should it be like a celebrity, ministry or something? Actually, the conclusion is very simple. London Business School asked for one recommender, and it should be a professional recommender. And it probably, in this specific case, should be your boss, because he knows you in the best way. So you probably should choose your manager or your manager's manager, preferably from your present position. If that's a problem, from your previous position, try not to go too far back. And again, because there's only one recommendation, I would really urge you to take a professional recommender. So there's 5 very long questions for your recommender, and you're going to need to prepare the recommender that he's going to need to answer a 2,000 word recommendation. I'm not going to go into the questions, but I will say, help them to help you. Pick the right recommender, not someone who's going to be, someone who can invest a lot in this recommendation. Share with them the prompts. Maybe remind them all different stories about you. Do you remember that, I was first in the unit, first in this, that I got a special award 3 years ago, that you assigned me with the best clients because you trust me the most, that you promoted me faster than my peers. Okay, so you can help them a bit. And London Business School also asked a question about kind of your career goals. So they asked the recommender, where do they see you in 10 years? So it might be, nice to share your vision with your recommender, and just explain to them why you want the MBA and where you see yourself in the future. So I think that's all I have to say about the recommendation. And my last slide about London Business School is their online application. Again, I won't go into everything, but London Business School have a very, very long online application. When I say online, I mean everything else besides the CV, essays, and recommendations. There must be 20 questions in the online application, and there's a lot of questions about why did you take your current job? Why did you leave your previous job? What's your biggest international experience? Do your academic performance represent, do your scores represent your academic ability or whatever? So there's lots and lots and lots of questions. So first of all, this takes a lot of time, so please allocate time for this. Again, if you're applying for January, you should be starting this online application already. Don't forget, the online application is also part of the application, and you can't write something completely different when they ask you to describe what you do at work. You can't say you're an accountant and then on your CV try and claim that you're in PwC consulting. Okay, like you might be an accountant, yeah, but I'm saying you can't say you do audit to reports every month, but then you're a consultant. Okay, you need to it has to be aligned. And there's a lot of room. There's a lot of questions, and some of them might feel a bit redundant. Like, why are you asking me about my job? I've already supplied your CV, but still, yes, if they're asking, you need to fill it out. So here are some questions. Again, employment details. Like I said, the academic performance. There's some statistics, like what job are you aiming for? Because they want to kind of do statistics on that. And have you spoken to any London Business School alumni or students? Very important. They want to see, how did you reach them? So again, just take your time for this. I don't think there's any right or wrong answers, but just, write in length the answers and try and align it to your actual application. Okay, 45 minutes later, we can move into INSEAD. And again, the interview questions and the video interview in part 3, which will be here in about 10 days, live on YouTube. So let's move now to INSEAD. So a little INSEAD recap from presentation number 1. It's one of the best business schools in the world. I think it was ranked number 1 in 4 out of the 5 or 6 years in Financial Times. It's ranked right now number 2. I don't think that matters too much. 11th in QS, high ranking in every other MBA ranking. And more importantly, if you ask employers, if you ask MBA grads, I don't know, people who kind of know this industry, INSEAD is one of the best schools in the world, period. There's no doubt about that. It does have 2 main campuses, one in Singapore and one in Fontainebleau in France. And it has 2 intakes, which is quite special for this school. So you can actually start your studies in January and in September. I won't go into the rest because it's all in presentation number 1. Now, I think the INSEAD application is probably the longest MBA application I've seen. Yes, I've seen 2 schools with 10 essays, but they're very short essays. I'm just working now on some. Yeah, 2. I know 2 schools that have 10 essays or 8 essays. INSEAD only has 6, but they're long essays, 300, 400, 500 word long. There's also 2 optional essays. In this specific case, I don't think you should answer the optional essays unless you really want to, unless you have something. And you need 2 recommendations. So this application is actually longer than any other application. The prerequisites are very similar to any other school. Like we said, 2 to 12 years of experience. You need an undergraduate degree, although you don't have to have one. You need a GMAT. There's no GMAT waivers at INSEAD full-time MBA. And if you didn't study in English your undergraduate degree, you will need an English proficiency test. INSEAD don't accept, as of this year, Duolingo. They accept TOEFL and IELTS. Okay, so the application process is very similar to London Business School. There is one change. It's not a big deal. Once you submit your application, you actually take the video interview, and everybody does this video interview. And then there's kind of a screening. And then if you get to the interview process, interview stage, you actually have 2 interviews at INSEAD. They're usually with alumni. And then 5 weeks later, you'll get the final decision. I think we got the round 1 decisions a few weeks ago. And that makes sense because it was the 15th of November a few weeks ago. So that makes sense. And as you can see, they have 8 rounds per year because they have 2 intakes and 4 rounds. And again, more info in presentation number 1. And now let's dig into the application itself. So the resume I'm kind of putting aside because I spoke a lot about this with all our engineer and lawyer examples. Very, very similar to London Business School or to any other MBA CV. The only difference I would say is just for any MBA application, just make sure what are the core values of that business school. For example, INSEAD talk a lot about diversity. They talk a lot about this internationalism or global perspective. So if you do have global or perspective or some kind of diversity experience, mention this even in the CV level, like we did before, worked with teams from Germany and Canada or whatever we said. Mention it in the CV level because that's like something that's important for them. And the CV is probably the first document that INSEAD admissions will look when they're looking at your application. Okay, so the essays are very long. So again, I won't have time to drill into all of them, but I did want to kind of mention all of them and just kind of give you some tips on each one. So if you get here 1 or 2 tips on each one, that would be great. As you can see, there are 8 essays. 2 of them are optional. I did see a change this year. I can't remember if it was in the January intake or the September intake with essay number 7. And basically, the old essay or the new one, again, I'm sorry, I can't remember what's new and what's old, discussed about the failure. And the newer essay said, tell me about an achievement. Okay, big difference, I know. So just, when you apply to INSEAD, just make sure that essay number 7 is the right essay, or essay number 2 in the motivation essays. So let's drill into them a bit. So there's kind of 4 job essays, okay? And as you can see, 4 job essays, summarize your current job. What's your next position if you remain in the company? What are your, just give me a full description and then give me your career goals. Actually, it's things which are very similar to the first London Business School essay, although maybe the second one is a bit different here with staying in your current company. So job description, the first one, summarize your current job. So actually, it's quite a technical essay. I can take my CV, that has a summary. But when we talk about the job, let's try, first of all, and quantify some things. Let's try and give numbers, names, interesting clients, countries. Let's try and, remember what the school's interested in and try and put them. And the second thing is, remember, they have your CV. So although I need to kind of be technical and kind of repeat myself, let's not repeat the actual CV with, bullets of where I've been at each year. And I would actually prefer if you explained why you did career shifts, why you did moves. At the end of university, I had a few options. I was also contemplating working for a big pharma company, but then I decided I'm more interested in investments and went to be an intern in a big venture capital fund. Okay, so explain why you did these moves and not just what you did. So that's kind of a technical one about showing your CV bullets, but showing them in a different way of the why you did each move and how you did the move and giving some background for that. This is an easy essay, the second one. Actually, I really think it's one of the easiest essays in the MBA application, which is if you didn't do an MBA, okay, if you remained in your company, what would you do? Now, because you're talented people, I'm assuming at some stage you would get a promotion, okay? And it could be a promotion to be your manager's position, whatever that is. It can be moving to another company and getting some kind of promotion there. Or maybe you're so passionate. You remember our waiter that became a head of a shift, that became a restaurant manager. Maybe he's going to say, I'm going to open a restaurant chain anyway. Okay, but that's fine. But again, the question is, if you remain in your current company, maybe that's a very strange example because he's maybe an entrepreneur or something. But it's kind of like, take your boss's position or some kind of similar thing to that and just say, I'm very successful. I'll probably be progressing to the next level in my company. Okay. A not good answer would be to say, I really need the MBA because I hate my company and I hate everyone and I want to change. No, I'm successful and I can stay in my current company and I can even progress there. Okay. Next job essay, description of your career. And this is kind of, like we said before, not a grocery list. Okay. So it's not a kind of a bullet, 1, 2, 3, this is what I've done, this is what I've done, this is what I've done. It's more of a why you've moved from place to place and what you've learned in each one. That's very important. So, beginning, I worked at a restaurant and I understood how the operations work. I was also in charge of ordering the food, the supplies for the kitchen, and I was also in charge of the staffing of the waiters. And I understood, how to manage people and, people skills and project management skills. Then I moved to be a shift manager and I learned about finance. Okay, so that kind of shows the story. And it will kind of show who you are and why you took these various positions and opportunities. And the last one is very similar to London Business School, which part of the first essay, which is your career goal. Okay, so kind of close your eyes. Think where you want to be in 20 years or in 10 years. So that's your long-term career goal. Now open the eyes because that's getting a bit freaky. But close them again. Imagine you doing an MBA and then imagine using that MBA plus a short-term career goal to get to that job at the end. So my dream is to be an entrepreneur. I'm an engineer and my dream is to be an entrepreneur. So my dream is to open a startup which will reinvent the way people pay money, a fintech startup. In order for me to do this, I want to go to London Business School or to INSEAD to gain more perspective of finance. And my short-term goal will be to go and work in a fintech company as a product manager, or to go and work in a bank as a finance manager, or to go and work in Google as a developer. Okay, so I'm kind of showing a nice connection between the past and the future. And all the dots at INSEAD need to be connected between the various essays, unlike London Business School, where there's one essay to kind of connect all the dots. Okay, I'm kind of running with, there's an optional essay. Again, try and avoid it unless you have a very big gap in your profile. And then there's 3 motivation essays. And this is quite a difficult essay. I would say probably one of the most difficult essays in the MBA industry world, which is give a candid description of yourself. This is quite a difficult essay. And then what's the description? Okay, do I tell you about my childhood? Do I tell you about my grandma? She's very important to me. Do I choose like weaknesses, a lot of weaknesses? Do I choose strengths? So the answer is a bit about everything. Be a bit aware, explain to them who you are, explain to them where you grew up, what you did, maybe 2 professional achievements, maybe 1 or 2 weaknesses, okay? And you need to be a bit straightforward here. It's a very difficult essay. It's a bit boring if you kind of just give details. So I put here, if you have a sense of humor or interpersonal skills, try and show this. Try and show that you've managed to progress in a nice way. Again, you don't have to try and tell jokes. I always start the morning eating cornflakes with orange juice. Ha ha ha. No, that's not funny. But sorry about my British humor. But I definitely think you can try and tell here like more of a compelling story than the different essays before, which were all about, career goals and what do you do in your job? And if you remained in your job, okay? So the job description ones are kind of more straightforward. The motivation essays are difficult, definitely the first one. And the second one, and one other thing just about the description about yourself, this is a good place to kind of tell INSEAD where you want to add value to INSEAD, where you want to add value to the INSEAD community. Maybe it's something that you did in the past and you also want to do at INSEAD. Maybe you just learned something and you want to help your INSEAD class, or maybe you volunteered in university and you want to do the same, the photography club, and you want to do the same at INSEAD. So that's a good place. And again, the failure story, this is the essay that changed this year. Very tough question because basically I only have two ways to answer this. One way is to say something really bad, like, I messed up. I'm just not good at big numbers. I'm sorry. Okay, that's not good, obviously. And the second thing is maybe a bit corny, yeah, I did something a bit bad, but I turned it around and I did it much better. And today I'm much, much better in this. So I kind of put here first of all, clearly explain the failure. Okay, kind of explain what happened. Why did you fail? But then kind of own it. Take responsibility. Explain what you could have done better. And then kind of what are the lessons learned? Like, what will you do better next time? Of course, I'm going to cut the big project into smaller bites. I'm going to work on my communication skills. I'm going to work on my human skills. If my subordinate at midnight on a Saturday night tells me they want to go home, maybe I should listen to them a bit more. Or, if my boss gives me 4 important projects, maybe I should, focus on that and not go and do something else, whatever. And then some kind of conclusion. And the conclusion can be positive. Maybe you've had the same kind of project again, and today you're much better at this project and you got better feedback. Maybe your manager told you that you've improved. So I would kind of end it with some kind of a bit positive. And then there's one more, there's one more optional essay. Again, I would not use this at INSEAD. Definitely not necessary. Unless there's something very important that we haven't mentioned so far. Maybe you have some kind of side business, some kind of entrepreneurship business. Maybe you have some kind of explanation to something that you're a bit worried about with adcoms and you want them to know. So my GMAT's a bit low, but I just wanted to, show you my grades for my CFA 1, 2, 3, and 4 exam or something like that. But again, I usually don't use the optional essays at INSEAD. It's very long as is. Okay, we're nearly at the end. Don't worry, we're nearly there. So we're actually there. Okay, so INSEAD required 2 recommenders, and the 2 recommendations need to be submitted directly by the recommenders. We discussed this a bit before, but basically I did want to add one thing, that a recommender should kind of, like a perfect recommendation would be, I've managed 10 people. Shimri was the best. Why? A, B, C, D. Okay, like they have to remember that London Business School, INSEAD, other MBA programs have to compare a programmer to an accountant, to a lawyer, to a graphics designer, to a waiter in a restaurant. It's nearly impossible to compare these people, and each one will have different achievements. And also the managers have different experiences. But if the manager comes and says, I've managed 10 people, Shimri is the best, we know that at least in this specific thing, in this marketing job that Shimri has at Procter & Gamble, Norway, Shimri is the best. Okay, so I think that's important, and try and pick a manager that you think feels this towards you. And like we said before, try and help them to help you, kind of thing. And there's a lot of examples that need to be shared. So again, pick someone that will do this. Okay. Last slide. We're there. I'm reminding you we are having another presentation about the interview process and the video interview process. But if I do need to compare the applications to both, from some kind of reason you only want to apply to one of them, and you're going to choose this based on the admissions differentiators. So the requirements were very similar, right? You need a GMAT, you need at least 2 years of work experience, and you probably need an undergraduate degree. But the actual application is different. London Business School is probably what we call a short to medium application. It has 2 mandatory essays and 1 recommendation and a CV. Don't forget that online application was very long at London Business School, okay? But still, the application isn't that long. INSEAD is what I call a very, 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 very long application in my professional language, where there's 6 mandatory essays, and then you need to find 2 recommenders. Remember, there's that video interview stage, which is mandatory at INSEAD, and everybody receives it. I'll discuss it in the next presentation, but I wrote here there's like 4 questions and 1 written one. And if you pass the stage, the first selection stage, there will be 2 interviews at INSEAD. So it's very long. On the other hand, it's a great school, so I believe in you. And if you want to apply, you can make it. Okay, this was a very, very long and a bit technical 1 hour about the London Business School and INSEAD admissions process. I hope it was valuable to people who are applying to London Business School and INSEAD. I am looking at the chat for your questions. Thank you for those. And I will answer some of the questions. Thank you for everybody who joined. Check out here somewhere the part 1 presentation, and check out here somewhere, if you're not watching this live, the part 3 presentation about the interview process. So thank you. By the way, you have my email, and check out our website, aringo.com. And you have my email if you're looking for a profile evaluation, or if you're looking for help to applying to these schools and others. Okay. Thank you, GMAT Club, for helping us here and promoting this event. Thank you. So I'm just looking a bit at the questions, and I'll try and generalize them a bit. So there's a question from an engineer from India. Okay, and I actually like the question because it's such a general question, which I'll try and kind of take it wider. Do people who come from overrepresented backgrounds, for example, an Indian male engineer definitely is an overrepresented background. London Business School or INSEAD get a lot of applicants from India. Does someone like that have a chance? Maybe with a mediocre GMAT, okay, a 655. I didn't discuss this, but I think I discussed it in a previous presentation. It's around the average of London Business School and INSEAD. So first of all, do you have a chance? I don't know. I don't know anything about your profile. 4 years of experience in engineering doesn't mean anything. Is it Microsoft, or is it a non-brand? Have you had 3 promotions, or have you had 0 promotions? Have you led 10 people or not? Are you number 1 in your team? Will your recommender say you're number 1 in your team? So do you have international experience? So there's a lot of questions to kind of generalize, a female from France in marketing, 3 years, does she have a chance? It just doesn't work that way. It's more of the story that you tell, and what can you tell in the story? And I think I gave here some tips how to also use your extracurriculars for maybe leadership, how to use what you did in university, in undergraduate degree, and how you want to do this in your master's degree in the MBA. So again, it's hard for me to kind of give a profile assessment based on a few questions, but all I can say is there's no wrong profile. And the MBA admission, especially at London Business School and INSEAD, put a huge emphasis emphasis on diversity, huge. And if you have an interesting profile, a different profile, that's extra points. And if you don't have an interesting or different profile, try and find your uniqueness, because that's what the schools are also looking for. So a very similar question. Is it true that most applicants are Indian males or Indian IT males? No, I don't think most candidates are Indian IT males. These schools receive thousands of candidates each year, but definitely there's a lot of candidates that are from India, and a lot of them are engineers. So if you are a candidate like that, or a white male finance guy from Wall Street, can also be a popular profile. Yes, find the uniqueness in your profile. Okay, so someone asked about the Sloan Fellows. Again, I'm not talking about that in this presentation, but yes, London Business School has, let's call it a one-year MBA. It's very similar to one-year MBA that starts in January each year, and it's for candidates with at least 10 or 12 years work experience. And I've had candidates which were 50 years old. I think I had a 64-year-old candidate apply to this program. So there's this program, there's some others. I have a whole video about MBA over 30 if you want to look for that. Yeah, talk to me individually. You have my email if this is a program that you want to discuss. I know a lot about it. So actually, there's an interesting question in the chat about if applicants are based in the UK. So if you go to London Business School, there aren't many British people at London Business School. You know, and same with INSEAD. Both schools, kind of their strength is that they have 90% international candidates. If you are living in the UK, but you have a different nationality, for example, it would be advisable to use the other nationality, like the nationality. Again, if you're German, but just working a year in the UK, so obviously you're applying as a German. Yeah, it's all a question about diversity. And again, I'm not saying English people cannot get into London Business School. I'm just saying, you know, they're looking out for diversity. So even if you are British and living in London and were born and raised in London, maybe show that you have a lot of international experience. Yeah, so great question from Mustafa. If you're an entrepreneur or your own boss, I don't know, you're the CEO. So who do you bring as a recommender? That's a great question. I think I discussed this in the previous presentation. I'm not sure. And the answer is, it's a tough one. You only need one. So it could be your previous manager in your previous position, if there was one. It could be, and if you don't have a previous manager, it can be some kind of board member, if you have one, advisor, mentor. If you don't have all of those, it should be a client, so someone that you work with. And if you don't have any of those, you can bring an academic or from an additional kind of extra curriculum recommendation, although those would be less good. So try and bring a business one. If you don't have a boss, maybe some kind of partner, maybe some kind of advisor, mentor, investor. If you don't have all those, maybe a client. Okay, 2 or 3 more questions. So this is a tough question. Which school would I prefer to advise you for finance applicant based of the UK? So would it be London Business School or INSEAD, and you know, maybe Oxford and Cambridge? And the answer is yes to all. First of all, these are very good schools. It's not that easy to get into them. So apply to all of them, and let's see, first of all, where you kind of get admitted to before you have to choose. I think I discussed in the previous presentation kind of the differences between the schools and employment statistics, the length of the program, the location of the school. So those are factors I would take into account when choosing a school. But basically, again, I don't know anything about your profile, and feel free to send me an email. But if you're debating between those 4 schools, Oxford, Cambridge, LBS, and INSEAD, my advice would be apply to all of them. Let's see where you get accepted to, and then think about which is better for your needs and career aspirations. So I love this question from Pooja. Again, you can be in touch with me and send me your CV and your GMAT score, and we can discuss that a bit further. But actually, MBA is a classic for pivoting, for changing careers. They don't always want to hear about this in the essays, but they're very good at that. And if your ambition is to move from HR to a nonprofit, yes, I think an MBA would be great. I think London Business School would be a fantastic option for you because the location of London is, so connected to London, where it's the headquarters of many global and British, but many global NGOs, and you could do that transition easier than being at INSEAD, for example, because NGOs are not a classic employer post MBA. It's not McKinsey or Amazon. So I think London Business School would be amazing for you. But again, INSEAD, a 10-month degree, very near to London geographically. So that could be possible as well. Again, back to the entrepreneur. Again, it really depends on your case. But, I think a client would be good, but I need to understand what you do, who are your previous employers, and, which recommender to choose. And now we're down to the last question. Which recommender to choose. So again, usually choose your direct manager. That would be the best recommender. And the next recommendation is or your manager's manager, if he has some kind of different angle, or your previous manager. Those are the two classic options. For issues, for people who don't have those options, for example, if you can't bring your current manager, or if you don't have a current manager, then I need to talk to you separately and to understand your profile. But like the classic recommender would be your manager and your manager's manager, or your previous manager from your previous job. That would be the best one. Manager and manager from your previous job. If you don't have a previous job, so two people from your current job. Okay, I think that was it for me. Thank you very much. I tried to condense in 1 hour 2 quite long applications, so I hope it was valuable in some way. And check out the previous presentation about London Business School and INSEAD statistics. The next presentation, it will be a good one. I'm giving you a heads up because I'm going to give there a lot of tips and tricks and how to prepare for the LBS and INSEAD interviews. Remember, I used to interview for London Business School for about 8 years as an alumnus. So I have a lot of experience in that. I prepare today a lot of people to these schools. If you like us, so subscribe to GMAT Club. Great. Thanks for that. Check us out on ARINGO.com, and see you guys in the next presentation. Thanks a lot.